You guys ready?
Be cool, dudes.
Yes.
All right,
Ready.
everybody watching, how's it going?
I'm in front of a microphone.
My name is Jesse Ruben. This is the second annual Generation Lyme Day live podcast. We are streaming in 3 places right now, and hopefully it's all working. Guys, we did it. We're here. It's been a year. We're still here. We're a little later this year. It's beautiful out. It's a beautiful day here in New York.
Yep.
That's where we are.
How's everybody doing today?
Quite well.
Was that a heavy question? That was supposed to be an easy one.
Well, there's been a lot of technology stress this morning,
Yeah.
so I think we're a little stressed out. So we're happy to be sitting.
But it's
and
all
doing
working.
this. It's
Birds
all
are
working
chirping.
now. Yes.
The internet is interneting.
Oh God.
Oh, we almost lost Haley.
Sitting in chairs is also hard. But that's not just a today thing. That's an everyday thing.
Well, we have a lot to cover today. We are going to be recording our monthly topic podcast, which is compassion is the topic of the month. And then we're going to do that briefly. And then we have some really wonderful user-generated questions. The monthly topic for this month is compassion. So I want to hear from you guys. Well, first of all, hello. This is Haley, Jennifer, and Brooke, for those of you that don't know. And welcome.
We come in peace.
And we are the board of Generation Lyme. We are a very professional organization, obviously. And so let's talk about compassion a little bit. What was it about compassion that made you guys think it would be good as a monthly topic?
Who wants to go first?
Oh boy.
Don't act like we don't do this stuff
How about
all
you?
the
You go
time.
first.
Yeah, you go first.
No, I'm hosting.
That doesn't mean you don't get to answer.
Okay, fine. I will go first. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
I think compassion is really important because the people in our community need it a lot more than most people. And I also think that there's 2 types. There's compassion for yourself, and then there's dealing with other people. And when you are dealing with a chronic illness, the first one to go, I think, for me anyway, was compassion for myself. And so I think that that's pretty common for people that come to meetups, and I just think there's a lot there. There's compassion for your health, there's compassion for your family, there's compassion for the way that people are treating you, for the way the medical community is treating you. There's just a whole long list of ways that this can go, and I think it's been really impactful and effective. I think the meetups this month have been pretty extraordinary.
So yeah, totally agree with everything you said. I think for me and a lot of people in our community, we have always been quote-unquote overachievers or athletes or perfectionists or just highly achieving, highly functioning people. And then we get hit with this illness that kind of levels everything in our life. And then I'll speak for myself. When this happened, I felt horrible about myself, and I was very cruel to myself. I couldn't be an athlete anymore. I had to drop out of school. All my identity was gone. And instead of saying, like, hey, this isn't your fault, why don't you, like, give yourself a hug or something, I was just brutal to myself. And looking back to like little Haley in the early years of being really sick, I just wish I gave her a hug. You know, there's definitely a piece of me that I have to grieve because I just totally rejected who I was at the time. So yeah, what you were saying about having compassion for ourselves and being nice to ourselves, and like to this day, if I need a day to rest, instead of looking at it as, oh my God, I'm getting sick again, like, this is horrible, I'm such a failure, like all these thoughts that come into our head, looking at it as like, you've done such a great job lately, you're working really hard, give yourself a break for a day. And that's been a real shift in my healing journey since it's a lifelong process, I think. So also having compassion for not having all the compassion that you expect yourself to have.
Like compassion inception kind of a thing.
Yeah. The red pill or the blue pill kind of thing. Yeah, and having compassion for others, this journey has really taught me that you have no idea what someone's going through. And we hear it all day in this community. People who look totally normal are going through hell behind the scenes. You would never know. I hear it like in the acupuncture clinic with patients who walk in like dressed to the nines. Oh, by the way, I sleep on a couch because I don't have a bed. And it shows you that you have no idea what people are going through. So just be nice to people and be nice to yourself. That was really long-winded. Sorry.
I just remember somebody saying to me once when I was really in the depths of, like, at my worst, they were like, but just think about, like, how much more empathetic you'll be when this is over. And I was like, I was already pretty empathetic and compassionate anyway. I didn't need this.
After I smack you across the face.
And that's what I think about all, like, there's a reason for everything. Like, is there? Jennifer, talk to us about compassion for you. How has that shown up in your life recently? How do you think people would react to that as a topic, monthly topic?
Oh, I mean, I just completely agree with everything you both said, and if I have to venture a guess, I'm probably going to agree with what you say.
And that's why we work together so well.
I mean, it's because compassion is so crucial to our experience in this community and to everyone's experience in this community, and a huge part of whether or not, like, if you go through life as a person, whether or not you have Lyme or any tick-borne disease, like, I think your experience, whether it's positive or your interpretation of your experience, if it's positive or negative, is probably going to be informed by how much compassion there is in your life, coming toward you or coming from you. Because it's like, whether or not you feel safe in the world or just comfortable has a lot to do with the amount of compassion flowing through and around you. And so to what both of you have said about, like, immediately losing compassion for yourself when you get sick or some kind of problem happens, it's so common, it's so relatable, it's something that I've experienced, because it's so, like, we're conditioned to go through that. And whether we're high achievers or probably not, but I think, like, there is a feeling of, I'm not what I used to be, because we've just gone through a change, and we're taught to mourn it, or maybe get angry in a certain way so that we can fight to get back. And there is an element in there that, like, could be useful, except what isn't great is that we're not really taught the tools to approach that in a healthy way, where we're getting back to something might not be possible or healthy, but going forward toward something better, like a new normal, might give you a better life. But emotionally, going through that entire process, like, we don't really have the tools for that, and we're just struggling with this onslaught of, well, how are you going to move through the world now? How are you going to see yourself now? And then other people, the whole world around us, lacks the tools to deal with us, to deal with people who've changed. And so then you've got this lack of compassion coming at you. And let alone, I mean, we have to mention there are systemic issues at play when you bring in something like illness or disability or anything that brings up inequity that makes you traditionally, and these are huge air quotes if you're just listening, like lesser or a burden or a problem. You know, obviously you are not those things, we are not those things, but in society it's this thing that we're railing against. And so for example, Lyme being so cost prohibitive, Lyme treatment and testing being so cost prohibitive, it's yet another reason why, as a person seeking diagnosis or newly diagnosed or in treatment, it's hard to move through that experience feeling like there's a lot of compassion in your outside world. And so for our community to choose compassion as a monthly topic, to bring that to the forefront and give it to each other, encourage giving it to ourselves, to really cultivate it, and in doing that, continue building the tools so that it's just like an easier experience, seems like a no-brainer.
But it seems like the entire, at least Western medical system, was designed with no compassion in it whatsoever. I mean, you could argue capitalism also, but I just feel like the whole system is like the insurance, like, yeah, I just feel like it's like I don't know, am I crazy? I feel like mostly people come on our meetups and are like, I've been to doctors and they're awful.
I think it's very black and white, and I want to be careful with what I say here because I don't want to like poo-poo all Western doctors.
Sure, yeah, I'm generalizing. I shouldn't generalize.
Yeah,
I'm getting
doctors on our side.
I'm getting dirty looks for saying that. I feel like, okay, in general, until people find like that one doctor that is going to say, but normally if they're just like wading into the water,
100%, 99.9% of the people in our community, including myself, have had at least one horrible experience with a Western doctor.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of us have had life-saving experiences with a Western doctor. So I just want to be careful, like, generalizing Western doctors.
You're right. I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you're a doctor. I'm so deeply sorry. I didn't mean it. I wasn't talking about you.
And also, while we're on this topic, just a sidebar, shout out to nurses.
Yes.
Because
Angels.
I mean, I've had a couple really bad experiences with nurses, but again, 99.9% of the time, nurses, home nurses, hospital nurses, doctor's office nurses, all the nurses. I mean,
very thankless job, and they really are lifesavers a lot
usually,
of the time.
In my experiences, they've been the one to actually care about you as a patient. So just shout out to all the nurses, especially in the times we live in now.
Totally.
But even before the times we live in now, a couple of them changed my life for sure. And
shout out nurses. Thanks, nurses.
I'm guessing I'm not the only one in this community.
Thank you, nurses.
Brooke.
And good doctors.
And also the compassionate good doctors.
Wait, Brooke, can I just see your Instagram so I can...
Brooke,
yes, you may.
While you're getting your phone out, talk to me about what compassion means to you in the context of your healing journey and how you thought it would go as a monthly topic.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say this is a really amazing experience. I mean, when we do a podcast together, for anyone listening, we spend a lot of time communicating with each other.
Virtually.
To figure out the best way to help people in the Lyme community via Generation Lyme. But when we, like, my experience doing this podcast as a participant is also as a listener. And so it's such a pleasure, like, hearing what Jennifer has to say and Haley and Jesse on this topic and a variety of others. So I learned a lot about the three of you just kind of sitting here.
Yeah, we all learned stuff about each other
amazing.
Today, didn't we, Brooke?
We did. So on compassion, this month, what I've been thinking about the most is, I guess, what I would call incremental compassion. And to me, what I mean by that is the like extra amount of compassion that you need to help your sort of next Lyme patient. And the reason I've been thinking about that is because all four of us, and probably every person listening to this podcast, has been trying to help Lyme disease patients for years, or help Lyme disease supporters or someone affected by Lyme. And so I know for myself, my ability to be compassionate is pretty strong and natural and wide, but it's not infinite. And so sometimes when I feel a little tired, I ask myself, do I have enough energy to help like one more Lyme patient? Or do I have the energy to run one more Generation Lyme meetup on a Saturday? And when I make things, when I think about compassion via baby steps like that, the answer is always yes. Like, I know I won't live forever and I can't help Lyme disease patients for eternity, but I know I can help one more Lyme patient, or have one more call with someone who wants to learn about Lyme. And so for me, I think about incremental compassion a lot, because all of us are trying so hard to help people affected by Lyme, but we know we can't do it forever. And when I get overwhelmed and I ask myself, but could I just do this one more small thing to help one more Lyme patient? The answer is always yes. And that just like helps me do more.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get, we asked for some submissions for questions for the Gen Lyme podcast today. And we got some good ones. So I thought I would ask you guys, and we'll see what happens. What's happening, Brooke? You're making a weird face.
No, just checking.
No, all good.
Oh, it's good? Okay. So first question from one of our users. Why do some people get better with herbs and oil while others, like myself, go on antibiotics for years and then have to resort to getting a PICC line? Is it bacterial load, genetics, co-infections? So frustrating trying to understand it all. Thank you for whoever asked that question. I'm not sure who it was.
And keep them anonymous. Anonymous.
Anonymous.
I know words.
This is Generation Lyme Anonymous.
What do you guys think about that? Because that's a question we get a lot.
I have so many thoughts, but someone else can go first.
Well, I like that some people get better with herbs and oil. What kind of oil? That sounds fun.
I think that person knows the answer. I think the person answered it I think that person answered their question in the question, that it is a combination of factors like bacterial load and co-infection, environmental factors, the speed of diagnosis and treatment, and the right combination of treatment at the right time, the specificity of treatment in a certain amount of time, that's heavily dependent on the presence of co-infections and which ones they are. So it's really, really specific to each person, and genetic factors. Like, there are so many differences that we know exist, but we know still, unfortunately, very little. Like, the scientific community still knows very little about what exactly to do each time per person to get the desired result. So it's still that throwing spaghetti at a wall situation. So some people require longer, more complex treatment processes, and this is not to, I'm not even going to go down the road to say that one treatment option works or doesn't work, which we could discuss in that question. But some people, so everybody,
everyone's different, right?
If you feel better with something you've done, that's great, and that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Like live your life, have a great life, and that's awesome. But it is just, and it's frustrating not to know why. It's frustrating not to have an answer. It's frustrating to try to find one and then not find one, and to assume that there should be one, because there is something like that in the majority of other infectious diseases we know about. And not this one, which has been in the public sphere like for enough time. You would think that we would know more answers to tick-borne diseases and treatment than we do, which is why we've got so many amazing people and nonprofits at work right now, and research organizations and stuff like that. But we hear you, person who asked this question, and we're definitely with you. You're not alone in that frustration. And if you are not, and social media is not, real, right? It's like,
I don't know if you guys know that, but
I think that's really
currently is real.
Well, we've been pretty upfront about.
I think we do a good job of being.
I think that it's important to say, because on social media you get a little blurb about someone's healing experience, and then it looks like they did it and it's done, and I took X medication or X herb and I was healed, and it looks so short. It can come across as seamless sometimes, especially when you, as the reader or the viewer, are in the thick of it on your own, and you're having a really complicated experience, and you don't have answers, and you don't know what your answer is or what your path is, and so you're like, yeah, of course, why are other people kind of getting there and I'm not? And that comparison is so easy to fall into, but it's definitely not as simple as it seems. It's definitely not as clear, like a you who can't get better and others who can. It's definitely not as clear as that sounds. So, stick with it and know that it's like that for a lot of people. And in the meantime, we're here.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that just stuck out about what you said is people that are doing it alone. And I think that is something that, to me, the most important service we provide is providing people a way to not have to navigate this alone. But I mean, and Haley and Brooke, I don't know if you guys have this too as people who host meetups, but when there's like a new person and they're like so grateful they found it and they're so happy to be there, and their first question is always, what did you guys do that helped you? Like, what can I do? Mm-hmm. And you can see it on their face because the answers are just like you said, like everyone is different and you just have to just try stuff until something works. And there's just so much defeat there, because they're like, I finally got somewhere people understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to get my answer. And then the answer is there isn't one, and it just breaks my heart every single time. So
yes and no. I agree with you and I disagree with you. First of all, seeing the new people that come on,
it's great.
It's just like, okay, this is why we're here.
Totally.
And I know we all agree on that because we've talked about it many times. Yeah, it's the actual best.
Welcome new people.
Welcome new people. We love you. And we love all our people.
We really do.
We love our
we talk about how much we love you. We talk about how much we love you all the time.
All the time.
We're kind of obsessed with you guys. Don't worry about it. It's not weird at all.
The part I disagree with slightly.
Yeah.
Because I do agree with the fact that you get the question, what have you done that works? And the answer is 300 different things.
Right.
I get that that's hard to hear, and you can see it on people's faces of like, I just need one clear darn answer, please. But the other side of that is that I'll use myself as an example again because I don't want to talk for anyone, but last year I had a really bad flare-up and I had mold exposure and everything like that. 12 years ago, when I was originally diagnosed with Lyme and started treatment, I didn't know anything about how people treat Lyme. And I just kind of had to trust that my doctors knew what they were doing. Thank God they did. And they saved my life. But then, like, some things got screwed up and blah, blah, blah. The point of this is that last year when I had my really bad flare-up, it was the first time I had a really bad mold exposure, so I never really learned much about the treatment of mold exposure, which I was very thankful about until I had to learn. And it was, simply put, it was because of the moldy people in this community. Shout out moldies, you know who you are.
Moldies?
Wow.
Is that a subset of spoonies?
That might have been
Moldies?
That might have been a poor choice of words.
I love it.
It was rethinking things now.
Yeah, they're like,
We know what you're trying to say.
Crap, why did I help this woman? But no, in all seriousness, it was because of a few people who have been in the mold world for a very long time.
Yeah.
That some of the treatments they used did not work for me, but some of them got me to where I am today in a year versus what it would have been without knowing any of that.
Yeah.
So I totally agree that it is like somewhat of a free-for-all, but the fact that it's like coming into one of these meetups and hearing all these examples of what people do is quite literally like 10 years of research in a couple hours. So yes, to conclude
Yeah.
this segment of what is happening in the world.
No, that's a good point, because at least it gives them a starting point as opposed to just a nothing.
Right. I think it takes
Similar
out...
story over here, by the way.
I think it takes out years of experimentation.
It does.
Because
That's a good point.
You hear things that didn't work for anyone. You hear things that worked for a bunch of people.
Or that didn't exist 10 years earlier.
Right. That's what helped me the most, is like, personally, I try not to learn about the new treatments because I don't want to have to use them. Like, I want to keep healing.
Denial is glorious.
Sometimes denial is what keeps me sane. And knowing that and having compassion for myself that that's the case is great.
Yeah.
But so a lot of these treatments for mold that I learned about last year that expedited my healing over the past year, I would have no idea about for years unless it was for this community. So like I really owe a lot of my health and sanity to this community as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, moldies.
All right, we're gonna move on to our next question, which I think is also an important one, and I'm curious to see what you guys think of it. How do you guys cope with fatigue or burnout from all the work you do within the Lyme community? I guess this is really just for us specifically.
Oh wow.
Brooke?
For me, it's what I said earlier, incremental compassion. And yeah, I mean, we have been doing our best to help as many people with Lyme disease for a long time. And when I ever feel fatigued or, a little burnt out, I try to think less about the overwhelming nature of trying to solve Lyme disease for the world. And I think a little bit about, what can I do this week to help Lyme disease patients, and then it becomes a little bit more feasible. And then if I can help Lyme disease patients this week, then I can probably do it for 2 weeks and 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden that becomes 1 year and more. So for me, it's trying to help Lyme disease patients one person at a time. And actually I think that's one of the philosophies that sort of drove us at Generation Lyme long ago when we started. I think we're all very good at helping people, one person at a time. And so I just try to think about that.
I definitely struggle with this question. It was a lot easier during the pandemic when there was nothing else to do.
It was easier then.
In some ways, that was the only thing that kept me even remotely sane during the pandemic. Although, I don't know, it was tough for everybody. But life was really simple for me. Like, as a creative person, like I didn't have to go into an office. I wasn't working very much, and I could really focus on what we were doing, and the timing was great. And now that the world is sort of more back to normal, it's definitely harder to have a balance of wanting to help as much as I can and also take care of personal responsibilities. I mean, this is like a huge sacrifice. I was talking about this with Brooke on the way here. Like, for my wife, like we haven't gone out to dinner on a Wednesday in 3 years or something, because I host on Wednesdays, and she obviously understands and gets why we do it and why I do it and why it's important to me. But it's still a sacrifice, But I don't know. I like it. I think it's worth it. Big fan. What about you guys? Fatigue and burnout?
Where do you want me to go?
I also take a lot of naps.
Do you want to go at all?
I'll go after you.
Okay.
Thinking.
Yeah, she's giving me a look into my soul. So I agree with you. It's a tricky question. I have gone through many phases of burnout. And sometimes I don't know how to deal with it, being completely honest. Sometimes I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need to focus on myself, and I need to get through the end of school. But then, kind of what Brooke was saying, I'll host a meetup or talk to someone, and I'm like, oh crap, I can't, like, it just means too much.
They pull you back in.
Come on out. No, but it means so much to me, and I think we all agree on this too, that it's every time I get to the point of it's too much, I gotta stop, I think about me 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, trigger warning, but I wouldn't have been as suicidal if I had this community 10 years ago. And like, thank goodness I'm still here, but yeah. And I've taken breaks. Last year I took a very extended break and you guys picked up my slack for me. And I think we do that too as a group. Like if somebody needs a break, we let them have it. But yeah, it's tough too. Like with the pandemic not being real anymore, apparently.
Which we're glad about.
Very.
Yeah.
Like,
extremely.
don't want,
Oh yeah, no. Like, thank goodness it's getting better. Just keep being careful out there, folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm back in school and it's hard to do the whole work-life balance thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Okay.
She's like, grab a snack.
I
Everyone
do
settle
need a
in.
snack.
Grab your popcorn.
So I think this is a great question,
Yeah.
and I think it's really hard, actually, to answer. Not the like fatigue and burnout are there. They can be there, but it's hard to answer, basically because of what everybody else said, because we want to do this work so badly, because it's so tied up in, like, for me, I'll just speak for myself. It's so tied up in who I am, and it's directly tied to feelings of compassion. It's empathy.
Good
this
segue.
It's true. This is how I help somebody else in my way. Like, I might not host meetups, but I will be up all night. I will be doing this stuff constantly planning what was going on in the background, or thinking in my head about how if we take certain steps we will achieve this goal that we've discussed, and this is not the fault of the community or anything or anyone. I have a really hard time stopping.
Yeah.
And I just am, and that's something that I have to, like, have compassion for, and also have to part of that is like figuring out how to deal with it. And it's especially relevant when it comes to something that I care about as much as I care about this work. So I'll just keep going. I mean, like, I don't like hide that. I mean, at least
We all are aware of how much time and effort you put in.
I'm just like,
Without you, none of us would be here. I'm not that we would be dead, but we definitely wouldn't be around this table
no,
on these
but you know,
lines.
I then eventually, especially when life changes or something happens, I'm like, I should eat. I
should eat for the first time in 3 weeks.
I should have a water, or
basic human
I need
needs.
laundry, and so and that's like separate from the burnout of the subject matter, which we've also dealt with separately, which is why I'm pretty introverted, very extremely introverted. So I find like hosting meetups is a little harder for me, and so I feel like I can spend more energy helping the community as all this time, like, by working in the background. And so that's like that was one way to cope with that kind of thing, like adjusting how energy would be spent and how skills would be applied and stuff like that. And so but yeah, I'm still, like, personally just working on learning from other people and how they know when to take a break or a moment, even if it's like I'm going to turn in for the night. Because I'll turn in for the night and then be like, I'm going to do that thing and it's going to... Maybe I got something else going on. But, yeah, that's my honest answer to this question.
I do want to add, too, selfishly, I don't know if you guys agree with this or not, but selfishly, it makes all the shit I've been through a little more worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, doing all of this?
Like helping people. Yeah. So that maybe
it feels...
I can make their lives a little bit easier.
Yeah.
There is a lot that feels really good about doing...
So many things.
About working, like, seeing other people feel good is amazing.
I mean, just like you guys were saying earlier, seeing that new person come on and like, oh my God, you guys know what I'm going through?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, all my suffering was worth it. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me adopt you. Come here.
Yeah.
Good question, though.
Very good.
Great
These
question.
are great. So I'm
Great question.
I'm going to combine these next two because I think they're kind of related. So the first one is, how do you guys deal with disappointment while sick with Lyme disease? And the second one is, how do you deal with anger and depression with Lyme? And I feel like all of that can kind of just be
Manic
smushed into...
literally, manic laughter.
Yeah, one of my answers to this question is dried mangoes, for sure.
Yeah.
You took both of our answers.
Well, now you know, everyone.
Sweet sugar, mostly sugar.
I feel like I should start off with a hot take,
Okay,
Go for
ahead.
it.
and that's medication.
Is that a hot take?
For some people.
Whoa,
For
whoa,
some
whoa.
communicate.
Yeah.
It's for some communications.
Yeah.
Communications, communities,
Communication.
communication.
Yeah, we're very pro medication.
So yeah,
If you want.
I'm not talking like antibiotics. I'm talking antidepressants, anti-anxieties, antipsychotics,
Zoloft.
Prozac.
Everyone shout out your drugs.
I clearly need something. Take
Xanax.
what you need to take.
So yeah, I think, and sorry to put you on the hot seat, but we've talked about this in the past because we were both on antidepressant / anti-anxiety type stuff.
Oh yes.
And it took a while to be okay with it because society is like, oh, antidepressant.
Well, it's weird because on one hand that is definitely the case, but on the other there's like this. I feel like there's this giant push, like mental health, like take care of your mental health, but then actually doing it, like to actually like take an action and take the medications.
Other than meditation.
Yeah, is like there's a big barrier there, I think.
Yeah, and I think people look at, myself included, before I started taking it, looking at these mental health drugs as like, oh, you really have a problem if you're taking this.
Yeah. Nope.
But it's like, or like you're crazy if you have to be on that. But all they do is help you feel more like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely like, it felt like an admission of defeat. That was like a feeling that I had a lot of, like, I'm not strong enough to handle life on my own. Like, why am I so weak that I need this? And really, it's just like a chemical imbalance, and when you find the right medication, it just goes, like, readjusts your chemical levels so you can be, like you said, more yourself, like more of a human being. You don't need to be. It's not a sign of weakness if you're just like suffering all the time. It's just a sign that something is wrong. But because I feel like in society we're so attuned to like, well, I can't see anything wrong. Like, you're not bleeding from the head, you know. But by the third day of me taking Zoloft, my life was completely different.
Totally
like, it took 3 days for me to just go like, oh,
I was like,
I remember this.
Yeah.
Whereas for years before that, it felt like I was an alien in my own body, which I know is a sensation that a lot of us have. So, yeah.
I've also heard many times that like, oh, you take that, you're not you right now. Like, it turned me into a different person.
Right. No, it's the opposite.
Like you're saying, right? I was like me sitting on the couch, not realizing where I am for a week, and then coming to and realizing that, like, I've just been on the couch for a week in a deep depression. That's not me.
Yeah.
This is me.
Yeah.
And it took balancing out that chemical imbalance to get there. So I just want to remind everyone that there's no shame in the drug game.
Don't quote us on that.
Yeah, don't.
Marijuana.
I mean, I also just want to say, like, I don't handle it well when I'm not feeling well.
Correct.
Like, I've been really fortunate. I've been in remission for a long time. And then and when I get when I get like when my symptoms come back, I'm a mess. I'm stressed, I'm upset. I'm like I have very little patience. I can't like perform normally in the world. I think it's weird that we're expected to just be normal in the world when you feel sick. Like I don't handle it well. Some people on the calls are like, I've been sick 20 years and I'm really zen about it and I know I'm going to be okay. And I am so amazed by that because I can't handle suffering, like long-term suffering. I just like crumble, you know? Yeah. I don't handle it well. So
it's
in case you also don't handle it well. Jennifer and Brooke?
I handle it great.
I am a saint.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to discuss in this question. I'll focus on the disappointment part. Yeah, for me, there are different types of disappointment. There's disappointment that's my fault and I can possibly control, and there's disappointment that I can't. And I'm also a realist, so I spend a lot of time trying to figure out like why things are the way they are and how I can optimize my own situation given that reality. So here's what I mean. There's nothing that I can do about the fact that 12 years ago I contracted Lyme disease and babesiosis, right? And so I'm not disappointed about that because I just don't think that it was my fault and it was just unlucky that I got bitten by a tick. But if I know that I could feel better by things that I like to do, like exercise or go to the sauna, and I'm just not doing those because of whatever reason, and I'm disappointed in my health as a result, that is something that I can control. Yeah. And so it's hard, but, you know, I'm not an athlete, but like I need to exercise once a week. And if I don't, my body starts to, you know, not feel great. And so if I'm disappointed because I feel bad and I know that I could resolve some of my symptoms via exercise, I don't consider that disappointment because I can do something about it. I can go run a mile tomorrow on the treadmill and feel a little better as a result. But so for me, I've bifurcated like things that I can control, like detoxing or researching a new treatment that I might try, or, you know, just things like changing my diet that might make me feel better. And things in that category where I think I can make my own choices and feel a little bit better, I've removed kind of disappointment from that. But the fact that like...
That's very impressive, by the way. I cannot do that.
But it's also taken me 12 years to figure that out. Yeah. And so there's a different type of category, which is like, am I disappointed that there's not a Lyme vaccine? Yes, but I don't think I have control over that. I mean, maybe if I go talk to Pfizer and, you know, become an advocate for Lyme vaccines, I can incrementally control that, but mostly I can't.
Yeah.
And so I try to focus not on being disappointed that there's not a Lyme vaccine, because I think that's out of my control, and I'm mostly disappointed if I know I could feel better but I don't because I'm not running.
Yeah.
That's something that I can do something minor about. And so there are two types of disappointments for me, and I'm trying to explain how I put them into two very different categories.
I'm so jealous of your logical brain.
Yeah,
it's highly logical.
I love that.
But it's just the way I think, I guess.
I do something very similar. Yeah.
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Just the way she said that.
No, I do.
She just makes me laugh.
I use I think, and I use slightly different language, but I think I do something very, very close, if not the same. And in a way, I think I handle disappointment and changes too well because they don't bother me. I get mad about some stuff, but like I don't get mad about that. I don't get mad about like health changes or setbacks. I just move on to the next right thing for me to do, the next right action each time. And those are under the category of things that I can control. If there are things that I can't, if there are things that just happen, or things that I can control, I'm thinking of what to say.
Oh.
There happen to be some flowers over there. But if there are things that I can control, it's specifically having to do with Lyme. Those things don't have my energy. And specifically because I now know what they are. And I do want to make that distinction because when I didn't have answers, it was much easier to be like emotional about it and frustrated, especially when I was trying to do things in my life that were in contrast, that were directly conflicting with the realities of my health, even though I didn't know what the realities of my health were yet. But now that I do, if something happens, even if it's like really, even if it really stinks, like last year, I had a major setback too, or the set of them, and I got upset. I like allow a grieving period if something is really major, but I also just, it's a choice to do something that I can do next. And sometimes that's like, if a day is rough, symptom-wise, sometimes that choice, the next right action, is to stop what I'm doing and sit down and do nothing. But like finally stop, like to my point, what I was talking about earlier. Other times I think I need treatment for this specific symptom. I'm going to seek it out. Or I need to change my environment. Or I need to go for a walk. And so on. I need to talk with someone, or I need to go to a meetup, or just listen, or there are like so many different kinds of things that and even if I can't control all of it, I can contribute to part of it, and I laugh a lot.
Well, you're pretty funny.
Thanks. But I think a lot of things are funny, and I think that absurd things are often hilarious, and so usually what ends up happening, I've been sick I've had illness kind of circling my experience since I was a kid. Yeah. And so I think when you have experiences like these, you end up seeing the world a little bit differently, and then enough time passes and you kind of point out the absurd in a lot of everyday situations, and that does also help. Yeah. So.
Such good answers.
Amazing answers.
All right, we're going to wrap this up with our final question. I'm not sure who asked this, but I think we could wager a guess. Which board member would win in a Royal Rumble? I believe this is a WWE reference. So if we were all to get into the ring, who would emerge victorious? I think one of them.
Yeah, I do too. First of all, I have a lot of questions. I'll be very brief.
Yeah.
I don't think I would win, but I question what the definition of win is. If we're talking a...
Wait. Can we pause and just back up for a second and just talk about how Brooke Stoddard...
Cheers to that.
Of Brooke Stoddard.
I just feel like Brooke would be like, can we all sit down and just talk about this for a second?
What is winning, and why do we need
Why are we
to
wearing
do that
this spandex? Why are we in this ring?
If we were all let me simplify it. If we were all put in a cage...
Why did a bunch of Lyme patients get put into a cage to fight each other? It's a hypothetical.
Oh my god.
That is a phenomenal answer. I think Brooke and I would do what we did with the hot ones, which is we would back away slowly and let you guys duke it out.
Well, if we're going with the hot ones, example.
Which, by the way, if you're listening to this, on our YouTube page, there's a video of Haley and Jennifer eating progressively hotter wings and asking each other amazing questions. and it might be the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And if you
It's outstanding.
If you haven't watched it, you should stop what you're doing right now. Go to our YouTube page. Anyway, continue.
So I feel like if we're going off that example,
Yeah.
There's two options.
It's a tie.
It might be a tie because like Brooke Stoddard said, what is winning?
She doesn't feel pain.
So on one side, someone is feeling pain and seeing multiple versions of the world, but still talking.
Yeah.
And she is here to tell this story, okay? And on the other side,
Yeah.
the other person maybe got the easy way out, you know?
I just feel like we could beat her over the head with a chair. She wouldn't flinch, you know?
Help.
I think
Jennifer, blink 3 times
I might-
if you're being held
I
hostage.
might take Jennifer in the Royal Rumble.
I feel like if we're going with the hot ones example,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Jennifer.
Yeah.
If there's camo involved,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's.
Oh, well, then
I'm
win.
you
going
would
with
win.
me.
Yeah. You got a lot of experience with camo.
but I
Camo
feel like we
and
could
hot ones.
I feel like we could do a tie on this one.
Oh, okay. I like it.
I'm happy with a tie.
Because it really depends.
Because you never really.
Tie's always a good answer.
What is winning?
You want to lull everybody into a sense of security.
If you take anything from this podcast, just know what is winning. So, all right. So we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. I just want to say, first of all, if you're watching this, thank you so much. If you're participating today, thank you so much for being here. Please use the Gen Lyme Day hashtag. Go on the website. We've got printouts. You can hold up and take pictures. Tag us. I love this community. I love Gen Lyme Day. I love being here with you guys. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we wrap up the Gen Lyme Day podcast 2022?
Happy Gen Lyme Day.
I think we can all agree that everyone in this community, we are all winners.
We are all
Oh, yeah, big
winners.
time. Big
Agreed.
I love that.
And ditto to everything he said.
Yes. I echo that. Happy Gen Lyme Day, everybody.
Happy Gen Lyme Day. We love you guys. We'll see you very soon. We got lots more stuff coming the rest of the day. Please hang out with us. If you're listening to this, thank you so much for getting to the end because this was a journey. Please rate and review us 5 stars. You can get more information on all of the things we offer at our website, genlyme.org, GenLyme. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. On behalf of Brooke, Jennifer, and Haley, my name is Jesse Ruben. Happy Gen Lyme Day, everybody. See ya!